Today, we're going to be comparing two popular application dashboards, Heimdall and Homepage. If you're running multiple services at home like I am in my Homelab, then a dashboard is essential for keeping everything organized. I host a personal cloud server with Nextcloud, a media server with Jellyfin, a local GitLab instance, and a few others. And sure, I could just bookmark each service, but that gets messy and hard to manage across devices. So I started my Homelab journey with Heimdall. Later, I tried Homer, which I didn't really like as much, so I moved back to Heimdall. But recently, I found out about Homepage, and I found it's the best dashboard of the three. So let's jump into the comparison. Both Heimdall and Homepage can be installed using Docker inside of Docker containers. And if you're going to deploy these, I would suggest using a Docker Compose file just so you can keep everything organized and in one place. So this is my local GitLab instance, and what we're looking at now is the Docker Compose file for Heimdall. Like I said, it's a pretty simple compose file. You need to define your service, and the main thing you'll need to do is create a config directory inside of your server. So if you can see here, I have HomeCube services dashboard being mapped into config. And that's pretty much the hardest part about it. It's not even hard. You just make an empty directory and map it into Heimdall. Other than that, I do have some traffic labels here for accessing this just through a regular domain. But if you don't do that, you can just easily open these ports, and Heimdall will be accessible through either port 80 or 443. And next is my Homepage config. This one's also really simple. Similar to Heimdall, you have to create an empty directory for config, map it to app config. And here I also have some volumes for images, and we'll talk about that later, and the Docker socket volume map. And yeah, so both are pretty simple. This one does have traffic labels, but I'm using the file configuration for those, so it looks very small. But yeah, both are relatively simple to install. Once you spin these up, you should be able to access them. Pretty simple. So in terms of installation, I would have to say it's a tie between Heimdall and Homepage. They're both pretty similar, as you saw, and there isn't too much of a difference between them. Pretty easy. If you know how to use Docker, it'll be a simple setup. Now, the configuration and setup experience is a little different between each of these services. Heimdall is very user-friendly. Once it's deployed, you can configure everything directly in the browser. It has a built-in set of icons for services, and you can easily customize colors for each service card. All of the services come with pre-written descriptions, which I think is a nice touch. You can also add a background image by uploading it directly through the web browser. And right now I'm using a one-piece wallpaper, which I think is pretty cool and looks pretty good. You can also add a search provider like Google or Bing and a few others, and that'll just sit at the very top of your Heimdall dashboard. Configurations can be backed up directly in the GUI, and deleting services is also a very simple process. Setting up Homepage will take a little more work. You'll need to log into the server or machine you deployed it on and edit the configuration files to add services and change the dashboard's look. Luckily, Homepage has very thorough documentation, so it was pretty easy for me to get started. Like Heimdall, Homepage also has a large selection of built-in icons, but unlike Heimdall, if you want to add a background image to Homepage, you'll need to copy that image over to the server and map it into the container using a image directory or something similar like I showed you guys earlier. You'll also need to restart the container. Now, that might be a con for some people, but for me, it isn't a big deal. To back up Homepage, all you need to do is make backups of the configuration file on the server. So you can just do a simple CP or copy the file and save it somewhere safe. In terms of the configuration, I gotta give this one to Homepage. Heimdall is very easy to get started with, and if you're a beginner, you probably do want to start with Heimdall. But if you know how to read documentation and you know how to work with servers pretty well, then Homepage is very good. It's a lot more flexible and just provides you with more configuration options than Heimdall. So in terms of configuration, like I said, Homepage wins this one. Now, when it comes to layout, these two dashboards take completely different approaches. approaches. With Heimdall, you don't get much control over the layout. Services are deployed as individual cards that can be moved around but can't be grouped. This can make the dashboard seem a bit scattered and unorganized. All the service cards are the same size, and you can hide services that you no longer want to be viewable on the dashboard. Layout customization is where Homepage shines. There are plenty of options for customizing group icons and colors, making it visually easier to find exactly what you need on the dashboard. Keep in mind, these adjustments will have to be made in the config file and not through the GUI. So for the layout, again, I'm gonna have to go with Homepage. Heimdall's layout is really simple. It's not a bad thing, but sometimes I find myself having to look for the service that I want to access, and Homepage gets rid of that problem with the groups. I know exactly where to go for exactly what I need. Widgets are another area where these dashboards really differ. Heimdall has a decent amount of widgets, and they're easy to set up through the web browser. But I noticed that some of the widgets, like the ones for Proxmox and Pi-hole, don't actually show any information. At least for my setup, they don't. The font size is also on the smaller side, so that might or might not be a problem for you. Homepage offers a wider variety of widgets, and most of them seem to actually work. You can configure fields to display specific stats, and the widgets tend to look better in Homepage. For example, the TrueNAS widget on Homepage provides more useful information compared to the one on Heimdall. So for widgets, again, gotta go with Homepage. They look better, they're more functional because they provide more information, and I find myself actually using them on a day-to-day basis. They're also not that hard to install, and Homepage has a lot of documentation on how to get each widget working. Finally, let's talk about some unique features of each dashboard. Heimdall keeps things simple. It has a search bar that supports providers like Google, Bing, and a few others, but other than that, it doesn't really have any other features. You can add custom CSS and JavaScript, but that's a little more advanced. Homepage offers a good variety of information widgets for things like weather, stocks, and external server monitoring. There's a built-in dark mode, which I really like, and it has a built-in status monitoring, so you can see the uptime of each of your services directly on the card. It'll either say up or give you the millisecond count of the pings. And for features, again, gotta give it to Homepage. It has better information widgets. I really like the stock widget. I found myself actually using it. I actually like opening up my dashboard now because I trade stocks, so I like having that feature on my dashboard. Also, I actually find myself using the Google search feature on Homepage more often. It just feels better than on Heimdall for some reason. And I also like the server monitoring widgets at the top of the Homepage dashboard. All in all, I think Homepage is just a better dashboard, and if you're thinking about setting up a dashboard for your Homelab, I would say you look at Homepage and Heimdall. Heimdall might just be the right choice for you if you're looking for something that's just an easier setup and easier to get started. But if you're looking for something a lot more flexible and it'll give you more power over your homepage, then definitely go with Homepage. Thanks to the Homepage developers for making Homepage a really useful tool. And that's it for this video. If you like the video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.